Right now, there is an attack on Kazakhstan. The Russian Federation launched Oreshnik, but unsuccessfully. But it's not that simple. The Ministry of Defense of Kazakhstan made a shocking statement. So what really happened? You will be shocked when you hear it. Let's go through everything, step by step. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. Renata Slanova and the latest events. On the evening of June 5th, glowing objects were spotted in the sky over Kazakhstan. Russian Telegram channels started spreading rumors about Oreshnik. Russian propagandists immediately started whining about an allegedly failed rocket launch.
A comet? Yes, I'm telling you, a comet. Unbelievable. I saw the comet. Can you send me the video? I want to show off. Well, it's a comet.
They wrote that supposedly the rocket went out of control and instead of following the planned course westward toward Ukraine or a designated test site in Europe, it unexpectedly flew toward Kazakhstan. A video appeared online showing bright objects in the sky over Kazakhstan and near the border with Kyrgyzstan. Everything suggests that these could have been fragments of the rocket that broke apart right in the air. However, later the Ministry of Defense of Kazakhstan emphasized that there were no recorded violations of Kazakhstan's airspace. There is no threat to the population.
This phenomenon resembles the remnants of a spacecraft entering the atmosphere or a meteor shower. As a rule, all of them burn up in the dense layers of the atmosphere before reaching the Earth's surface.
They also added that citizens of the country should remain calm and refrain from spreading false information. The competent authorities are already studying this phenomenon. It is worth recalling that at the beginning of May, Russia once again began threatening Ukraine with the launch of the Oreshnik missile. Amid negotiations, Moscow closed the airspace over Kapustin Yar, from where Russia had previously launched this missile. Shortly before that, on May 7, Putin instructed the Russian Ministry of Defense to identify targets in Ukraine for a strike with the Oreshnik ballistic missile. Meanwhile, the United States believes that Russia will carry out a major strike against Ukraine in response to the Ukrainian Operation Web, during which 4 Russian military airfields were attacked and dozens of strategic aviation aircraft were destroyed or damaged. American and European security officials say that the assessment of the attack's consequences is not yet final, but according to their estimates, up to 20 Russian strategic aircraft may have been destroyed or seriously damaged, which still dealt a significant blow to Russia's long-range capabilities. On June 1, the Security Service of Ukraine carried out a special operation targeting key Russian air bases that are part of Russia's nuclear and strategic arsenal. The strike deep behind enemy lines, spanning thousands of kilometers, became Ukraine's longest-range operation to date. President Volodymyr Zelensky reported that a total of 117 drones were used in the operation. They managed to hit 34% of the occupied strategic missile carriers. Operation Web dealt damage to Moscow's valuable strategic capabilities. But just as important is the fact that it demonstrated Ukraine's ability to strike almost anywhere in Russia and to destroy military aircraft worth over $100 million using much cheaper drones. Trump had a phone conversation with Putin, and you won't believe what was said. The Kremlin dictator stated that Russia would be forced to respond to Ukrainian drone attacks on airfields. And most interestingly, the US president remained silent in response. No reaction at all. This looks like tacit approval for a new wave of strikes on Ukraine. What is the Kremlin planning? What could this response be? Find out more in the following report.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
All that was left were piles of debris. June honors the day when Ukraine struck at the very heart of Putin's air force. Bombers that have been bringing death to Ukrainian cities for 4 years were destroyed. But it's not just about the equipment. The strike hit Russia's nuclear triad, targeting strategic bombers capable of carrying nuclear warheads. And of course, this also dealt a very painful blow to the ego of the Russian dictator, a country that threatens the whole world, whose army was once called the second strongest in the world, could not protect its own nuclear shield.
A complete counterintelligence failure, a total failure of basically all Russian special services, a total failure of this entire machine.
And now the Kremlin is furious. And it's unlikely that Putin will forgive something like this. So what should Ukrainians prepare for?
In general, this whole war is unfolding according to roughly this scenario. One side delivers a painful blow, then there is an equally painful response. And then that response is met with yet another counterstrike from the other side. And basically, this pattern keeps repeating. That is, they strike at each other, inflict heavy losses, and then at some point things quiet down.
It's clear that Putin will try to do something media-driven, active, and very painful. And unfortunately, very often this is directed specifically against the civilian population. That's why it's important to pay attention to air raid alerts, because there could be all sorts of scenarios from the use of what have become relatively standard weapons for Ukraine, like the Iskander, the Kinzhal, or the North Korean KN-23, to, of course, more exotic options such as the same Oreshnik. After all, we know there was already an alert due to increased activity at the Kapustin Yar test range. In any case, this cannot simply be called a consequence of the successful operation by the security service of Ukraine against 4 airports, strategic aviation airfields, plus a 5th military airfield. In our case, our targets are specifically military facilities. The Russian Federation does not limit itself in this way.
The West is also unanimously declaring that the Kremlin dictator will definitely not leave such humiliation unanswered.
American officials have stated that they expect Russia to deliver a significant retaliatory strike against Ukraine for the attacks. American intelligence has not yet determined which targets Russia is most likely to strike. However, officials believe that Moscow may resume drone attacks on civilian targets, strike the power grid, or launch new waves of medium-range ballistic missiles, according to the New York Times.
And the Americans do not rule out another launch by Putin's Oreshnik. Last November, the enemy already used this ballistic missile to strike Dnipro. At the same time, Western experts have agreed that Kyiv has once again demonstrated Ukraine's ability to carry out operations deep behind enemy lines on Russian territory itself.
This successful operation, carried out thousands of kilometers from the border, demonstrates just how much Ukraine has advanced technologically and industrially. It is using these capabilities for smart and daring military attacks.
Meanwhile, the operation codenamed Web has revealed Russia's vulnerability to such attacks.
In the West, it is constantly repeated that supposedly nothing can be done against Russia, that Russia is invincible. But in reality, for 3 years now, Ukraine has been proving the opposite again and again. Russia is not as strong as it pretends to be.
Without a doubt, Ukraine has once again demonstrated a brilliant operation, showing that it can strike the enemy where he least expects it. But we know who we are dealing with, and the Russian dictator does not forgive humiliation. Most experts agree that for now, he definitely will not press the nuclear button. But there is another option still on Putin's table: drones, missiles, energy, cities, and human lives.
And what do you think about those mysterious flashes in the sky over Kazakhstan? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button under the video, and stay up to date with the main news. More to come.